Welcome to the You Decide podcast. I'm Dr. Tiffany. We are going to bring you stories of ordinary people who have chosen to live an extraordinary life, outside of their comfort zones and into confidence, possibility, and certainty. You are just one decision away from living your most aligned life, because let's get real, that's what we all want. Hey guys, we are back. Cal and I. Yeah. Our topic is sports. As anybody who knows, well, our current family, but both dad and my family growing up, sports have been huge, right?
Yep.
It's just kind of what you grew up in. And so we're going to talk about why you played sports, what they helped you with, what they've taught you, not only in high school, but the biggest decision for you in regards to sports was playing in college, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole new level of commitment, especially coming off your injury, which will be a different episode. We're going to get into what you were nervous about, what held you back, all those kind of things. And now that the season is complete, what it was like that you can maybe help kids. Doesn't necessarily need to be college, but maybe they're going to try out for their middle school team and they listen to this and they might be more inspired as to what it has meant to you and what value they might get from it. So you started playing soccer and basketball when?
Basketball was 5th grade, right? It was later.
It was later, 4th or 5th, yeah.
Yep. And soccer was when I was little. You put me in rec, so.
Right. You played a little bit more seriously, quote, seriously, just because 10 years ago wasn't still seriously, but at about 7.
Yep.
Right? That's when Gavin started doing his rec stuff. So let's talk about, because we could talk about sports. I was just telling her we could talk about sports for hours and hours and hours and hours. So we're not going to this time. We're going to very specifically talk about your high school experience, what it was like, what you learned, what the challenges were, and if you do it again, if you would do it the same. So go for it.
High school basketball. I came in as a freshman. I was, quote unquote, a little better than my other fellow freshman group in the aspect of they needed a point guard at the higher level. So I was pulled up to C squad. I played a little bit of freshman. No, we didn't have a freshman team, right? So Everyone played C squad. I was moved up to JV, and I started JV. Well, there was a little bit of split because me and Mariah got moved up, and we were the only girls, and everyone kind of just like a little bit of tension there. Well, that taught me that no matter how old you are, you can play wherever you want if you just put in work. Soccer, freshman year I started varsity. So I was kind of successful in all my 4 years of basketball and soccer. I never had I never had to work extremely hard to get my starting position. So when the thought of college came, when everyone was the best in the high school that got recruited, I didn't really want to play because I didn't think I was going to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of humbling. I didn't want to be on the bench. I've never been on the bench, you know? So I had to go through this is what everyone goes through, and this will make you such a better player by being humble and working hard for that position.
Mm-hmm. And so you tore your ACL January of your junior year.
Yes.
So you were out second half of basketball and then all of soccer. And just coming from my perspective, that was the first time you had to, like, you couldn't take it for granted that you were part of the team, you were going to get playing time, and you had to work for everything you got, right?
Yep.
I think that was the first, well, basketball especially, the first moment of like, ooh, I got to dig in. Because when the going gets tough, we don't quit, right?
Right.
No, we don't quit.
Not Johnsons.
Nope. Not the Iries. Okay, so what have you learned from sports?
Well, it's not just the sport. So I've learned my body loves exercise and I need that for my mental health. So I feel better after I go for a run, or I feel better when I'm working out. So that's just something I've always had that I need to do. So basketball and soccer, that kind of takes up year round, because soccer I would play in the spring and then we'd do club. And then the fall you start doing open gyms for basketball. So I've always kind of been in something. And mentally, I don't know if I wouldn't work out, I don't know what else I would do. So I would recommend finding that thing for people. A lot of athletes would say exercising. Other people, if they're into art, that's their like peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, obviously the mental health, I met a lot of people. So everyone that's in basketball or soccer, they have the same values. You go to practice every day, you have to grind every day, you have awful practices. If you lose, you have the awful sprints, but everyone's going through it and you kind of just get closer through that, especially at the elite levels, so the varsity levels. When you're in like C squad and stuff, people start to get weeded out, they quit.
Commitment wise,
Yep.
right? If you don't show up for practice, you don't play.
Yeah. So I would say my closest friends are through the sports and those activities that you get super close with because you're going through everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So that led to college. That's one of my main reasons I wanted to play in college, was you find your people and you're with them all the time, especially college. So you have your liftings in the morning, you have your practices, and then you have a ton of team activities that you're required to be at. So you support at MSU, you support other teams like football and volleyball and stuff. So you're kind of just, you have to be together. You don't really have a choice. So that's probably the main reason I wanted to play in college, was the forced friendships. And a lot of them are like amazing people. And I would have never met them if I wouldn't play. So
Right. Yeah, you've definitely found your group and your tribe. And you're still in the competitive arena of being able to play for something, not just to work out, but to work out for something, right? Yeah. What made you, when you were deciding to play college, because there's a very small percentage of people who even have the opportunity to do that. That's what Dad and I were mentoring you on, right? If you have an opportunity to play and you still love the game, play. Even though you're scared, even though you might be the worst on the team, even though you might sit the bench, because we can't control all those outcomes, right? You had a little bit of strife this summer.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to play. Like, I was debating the school. Just because I was going into such a broad field that I wasn't going to the school for the school. If I was going to play soccer, I was going to go to MSU. So I was starting to, if I'm not going to play soccer, then I don't want to go here. And it was a rough few months because I didn't really want to play because I didn't think I was going to be good. And I needed that push to just do it.
Yeah.
And if freshman year was awful and I didn't like it, then who cares? I have next year to transfer schools. And that's my biggest piece of advice is it's going to feel uncomfortable. Like there was a pit in my stomach, especially because since MSUM is in-town players, incoming players can go to liftings before the season starts. So there's upperclassmen that were going and I didn't want to go.
Right.
I didn't want to. It was so uncomfortable for me, but I'm glad you guys pushed and didn't allow me to have an out, because it was amazing. The experience I had was amazing. So my advice is you have to just push past the discomfort, and you can always
try it and decide later, right?
You're going to regret it if you don't try.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. You're going to regret it if you don't try. If it's bad, you don't have to play anymore.
Right.
At least you tried. So
Right. Because everything came pretty easy for you. I think one thing academically, you learned how to study because it didn't come extremely easy to you. Sports did, and you worked hard. And so you were that kid that didn't have to struggle for a spot like so many other people did, and how much character you build when you have to work for something. Well, anything, right? Anything in life. If you're just given it, you don't appreciate it either, and you don't dig in. So obviously the camaraderie, right? The people, the exercise, anything else that sticks out that if you were, even kids that are maybe considering playing soccer for the first time in 5th grade, or going out for basketball their 7th grade year, or maybe they've played basketball and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to play. What would you help them? What would you share to help them kind of sift it through in their minds to determine if they really want to play or not?
Well, my thought was a lot of people I hear that didn't play college or didn't play high school or didn't play middle school, when they're older, maybe not a few years later, but when they get older and they have kids, they wish they would have played.
They regret it. Yeah.
So I never wanted to be in a position where I wished I would have played.
Yeah.
So if you guys are thinking about maybe, oh, do I play this year? I still like it. I like the people, but I just don't know. Like, there's school, and school always can come at a different time. You can only put your body through athletics for so long, and we have our whole lives to work and be smart and
learn.
That should not be your focus. School should not be why you're worried about playing sports. And that's what I learned. If I get a B in a class because I had a game late at night and I studied as much as I could, I would rather take that than it really doesn't matter. Like high school, middle school, it matters a little bit, but you'll remember your teammates. You'll remember those games. Like, the things that come out of playing sports is far larger than high school or middle school. Like,
yeah, we got to talk about the when you just said I got a B, because
well, it was hard for me, but like it was, but I also, as I get older, I've learned that you can only do this for so long. So if I quit, if I don't play college, will I regret not playing? Will I miss it to the point that like I should have played and it was because of school, which really, you have enough time. You have a few hours here and there. If you manage your time, you'll get it done.
Don't you think people avoid doing things because of what other people think? Or like, let's just say you're new to basketball and you go out for middle school ball and you have your group of friends, and maybe your group of friends doesn't play, or maybe they're always on the A team. Do you think a lot of people refrain from doing that because they don't want to be the worst, or they don't want to be seen sitting on the bench? Or,
well, that's the, what word?
By the way, she just nodded her head. You folks can't see me.
What's that word you said in basketball when I was more worried about what other people thought than me? What's that word called? Like on the bench, you're more worried about what they think when I was playing basketball than, I don't know what that word is.
Yeah, because you, for the first year ever, didn't start your senior year, right? Yeah. And she didn't, this is good. This is good lesson. She didn't even want to start having games because she thought she was less than. She thought she wasn't, like, other people would think that she's not a good basketball player or a good person. So she didn't want the season to start. Isn't that messed up now that you think about that?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean though, because these people, that was me as a senior in high school, and like, I'm smart. But like, if you're in middle school, you're not. No. So right. Like, yes, I could totally see why people don't want to be embarrassed that they're sitting on the bench, or that a boy might not like them because,
Yeah.
That would have went through my mind too.
Or let down your parents. There's probably some of them like that. Let's just say parents are elite athletes, or maybe they were college basketball players or whatever, or they just put a lot of pressure on their kids. And the kid doesn't want to let them down. So they don't. I mean, how many conversations do we have of that? Just so you know, Cal, you're not letting us down if you're not starting or if you're not playing. And beginning of the season, you didn't a ton, right? And in the end of season, you played 90% of the game because you dug into what made Callyn Callyn, and you didn't want to step away from any practice or any game by throwing in the towel.
Right.
Right? That was your biggest thing. I'm going to be the hardest worker in practice. So yeah, what was it? Don't look back. We got to think about what that was.
I don't know.
Something about not looking back. Number one, regretting, but caring what other people think more than who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would say if you love it or love competition, love anything physical, love being with your teammates, being outside of your comfort zone,
you meet a ton of new people,
shouldn't be why you not do it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, what else? Anything else about sports? Anything else about anything about life? How sports has affected your life?
Well, even meeting people that aren't in sports, meeting people outside of like at college, you just kind of create relationships with people in your classes. But like a big one that I've learned that I connect with people more is when they are athletic or they've done something. And it's easier when you share a common interest that you like both love or you both have interest in. It's so much easier to create relationships and friendships and boyfriends when there's a big common goal of not only the achievement or the determination that sports teaches you, that also translates to life. So if you're a competitive athlete, that teaches you that you have to keep going past the obstacles. Well, a lot of people that haven't been in sports, they don't know in school if something hard comes along, how to even get past it. Like sports teaches you so much about the pushing and the mind and what you can do. So I've just learned a lot about that. I've seen that translated into other parts of my life. So.
Yeah. And to be the encourager on your team, right? People are going to struggle. So how do you bring people up? How do you, when somebody is struggling and wanting to quit that sprint, how do you help them? Because that translates into life with no judgment, right? And knowing that you're going to have rough days and rough games and rough practices too, that they'll pick you up.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts? Just do it.
Yep. Go past your comfort zone.
Go past your comfort zone. Yes. Woo-hoo. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Hey, guys. Through the eyes of the mama on Callyn's topic, how sports affect your life. So here we go. We're going to talk about sports. I get to talk about where I came from in sports and the value it played in the family I grew up in all the way through high school, college, and then in raising our kids. I imagine many people will be able to relate. And I think nowadays, coming into the seemingly extreme of schedules and expectations, and we have highly competitive AAU leagues starting at like 4th or 5th grade. I think there's this fine line and never to forget what's best for your family. So me growing up, I played basketball. I played, volleyball started, I think, my junior year of high school. I did not choose to do that. Played softball in the summer. There was not high school softball, so I did a lot of softball with older women. But basketball was my sport. And so even back then, we did a few tournaments. My dad coached, another gentleman helped him. And so we were just always in this. That's what you did. You went to practice, and before high school, you had weekend tournaments every other week, every third week, something like that. And that was what we knew. I watched my dad play basketball. He was inducted into the Amateur Hall of Fame 4 or 5 years ago. And so that was when he was 60. And so I've learned what's possible when you continue to stay involved physically. And for him, it served such a high need of competition and camaraderie and connection with guys. As I know, when you start to have families, your friends groups change, your availabilities change, your ability to do and be with those people that you used to be 20 years ago is just different. And so sports was always a huge part of my life. And I can speak for my husband, Craig. It was very similar upbringing. His parents were also active as they grew up in sports, and that's how they raised all of their boys in sports. And that's frankly how we connected, is because that was such a high value. And we both played high school, we both played college. And so many times with patients, I talk about what they mean, because it's not about winning and losing. Well, I take that back. It is about learning how to do both of them with grace. It is about learning how not to always be the best. Callyn talked about it. What happens when things come easy and then all of a sudden, holy crap, how do I handle this situation? And that is the same as a parent. As she was going through those struggles herself, we were also going through the same struggles, because there wasn't a lot of challenge in her world physically and in sports. And I believe everybody needs them, right? We need to, that's part of character building, is busting through that barrier to prove that you can do anything that you set your mind to. That is sports. Sports is a means of working with a team, probably for the first time ever for these kids. You are your brother's keeper. You lift everybody up. When you have a bad day, bad practice, bad game, they lift you up. The coach believes in you and trusts in you, and you do the same. And now you have this cohesive unit that if you believe you can do it, the sky is absolutely the limit. And I feel like kids that aren't part of something bigger than themselves, it could be the drama club, it could be theater, it could be orchestra, it could be chess, it could be robotics. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're part of a team, your part matters. And every single part of a team, their role matters. Whether you're the person on the bench that never gets into the game, you're the practice player that coach depends on. If you're the best player on the team, you're the person that most people see. They don't see the behind the scenes of what got that player to be able to succeed at that place. It is taught commitment. It doesn't matter if you're tired, if you're crabby, if you're whatever you are, you do not miss practice. You do not miss games. It is part of committing to not only yourself, but your team, your coaches, your community, your school. And that premise of do something bigger than yourself, that's where that comes out. That's where you get to see the payoff of committing to something from beginning to end. Seems like so many things are quick fix or quittable. If you don't get the quick fix, you quit. You threaten. If the coach doesn't do this, the parents take the kid out of the sport. It's not about that as much as it's all about all the lessons that they learn all the way through. It's about learning about physical fitness, about what your body can do and what fuels your body, what you need to eat, what you need to drink, how you need to recover, how you need to work out, what you need to do in the on season and the off season. Both of those look completely different. And nowadays I struggle with the fact that there isn't always an on season and an off season, that we're pushing beyond these kids' abilities to adapt, that their brain and their body is so stuck in go, go, go that it doesn't know how to repair. It doesn't know how to restore. It gets stuck. That's when injuries happen. That's when mental breakdowns happen. That's when we start to struggle in school. That's when that kid starts to not sleep. And so sports is, gosh, just like part of my blood, part of our family's blood. It's part of what has brought us together, our extended families and our existing or current, like forever. We meet at games and we have social time after games, and we kind of work our lives around their schedules. That's what our families did for us, and that's what we do for our kids. Working to bring those kids into our household as part of our own. And that is what, as a parent, is so amazing. Craig and I have coached for, I don't know, it's been 10 years, I think, between both of the kids and soccer and basketball. And that's one of the biggest rewards is being able to see these kids evolve into amazing humans, because that's what competition is, to me, at least. So competition is a means of putting your best foot forward and having your team surround you and having the group be much more important than the individual. Even in track, even in swimming, you're running your own race, you're playing your best, you're swimming your best, you're doing your best, but it is all to help the team. And so many kids now are either not moving, they don't feel like they're good enough to be in sports, they're not able to commit, they want to work instead. There's so many things that I feel like we're missing out when they're not part of something bigger. And so watching our kids go through these things is the same as what we went through, and our parents watching us go through it, and understanding that doing what you love is the most important part. It's a grind, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth it. And if you look back, just like Callyn said, sometimes the best decision is the one that will not create resentment later. When you know you had a chance to play and you chose not to, now you're going to look back and say, God, if there was one thing I would have done differently, I would have done this differently. And that is what we tried to, what's the word? Not fast forward, but like help our kids be able to look back, which is where they are right now. But like in 5 years, when you look back at yourself, is this how you want to be? Is this how you want to show up? Is this what you want to say about yourself? Is this what you want your kids to say about yourself? That is when you're starting to understand the value of participating and competing in something greater than yourself. So there are many things I could go into on sports, and how many, I'll be talking about it a little bit more too when we have her segment on coming back from an injury, because that was a huge family growth time for all of us. Anytime somebody goes through icky stuff, whether it's chronic disease, death, injury, something that changes their reality right now and probably forever, is a change in your family. It takes some transition time. That's the best way to say those times kind of suck. We have to embrace the suck as much as the awesomeness. So thank you for listening. I'm so grateful that this has been something that people want. I hear so many times, I listened and I passed along to my my sister, and her kids listened, and this makes my heart so happy. I'm really, really grateful. And if there's any topics that you feel are burning right now, I want you to make sure to let me know, and she and I will talk about them. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening and being willing to go all in. Ditch the excuses and the comfort zones and make a decision that nothing can stop you. You can find the show notes below, and I'd love for you to share, subscribe, and rate this podcast, but only if you love it.